Welcome back. Thanks for checking out the channel again. I'm John Stark, MacMovieGuy.com. This is a review of Next Goal Wins. So make sure to tell your friends because next subscriber wins. They don't win anything. I had nothing to go there. Uh, this is currently available on Disney Plus with audio description. So that's a win. It's directed by Taika Waititi, and it stars Michael Fassbender, and it also has Elizabeth Moss and Will Arnett and some other. It's Michael Fassbender and a grouping of indigenous uh, soccer players, basically, or actors playing soccer players, um, and Michael Fassbender. Just it's it's Ted Lasso in the American Samoa, but mixed with Gordon Bombay when he was a douche to the Mighty Ducks. It's a little, I don't know, it's like that kind of sort of thing. Um, it's based on a true story, so make sure you watch the right Next Goal Wins because the other one is a documentary. It is available out there somewhere, but just make sure you're check the year of your film's release before you watch it. Um, this has audio description from Deluxe and from a nice new narrator I wasn't as familiar with. I was like, who? Yeah, so that was interesting because I was wondering what was up with the narration. I was like, did Disney not use Deluxe? Is this is this diffuse? Which is never really a good sign. I should never be like, oh my god, is this diffuse? So, but let's talk about the film. Let's talk about, first of all, I always like to acknowledge biases going into films because I like to try to go into them pretty even with like the expectation that this will be good. Believe it or not, even with most films, some films you really can't like, but with 99% of the films, I always like to try to go in with like optimistic views on life. It's hard to do it for a film like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, but honestly, this I was, even though people were very tepid on it, I still went in with, oh, I like it. And mainly it's because of Taika. I like Taika. I still like Taika. I pretty much like everything he's done, just on varying levels. He hasn't actually made a film where I'm like, no, or a TV show where I'm like, no. Quite disappointed that Our Flag Means Death is not continuing on at Max. It's also the final season of What We Do in the Shadows, and Reservation Dogs just ended. So I don't know what we're doing with our lives, but we seem to be telling Taika Waititi to go home, and I'm not all about that. So this film has Taika all over it. It has his little brand of humor, but it also doesn't. It feels very sort of like Taika's trying to mainstream himself as a director and really just hone in on what a sports movie is. And he's only got like little moments of flair um, in so much that you can tell his brand of humor, especially with being able to direct Islanders casts, since he's from New Zealand. Um, seems to be They seem to have a very particular brand of humor, and it bleeds all the way over to American Samoa, which is not the same as New Zealand, but he makes it feel very much like it is. Um, and this film just tells the story of a coach who can't find work anywhere else because he's kind of a douche, sort of like the Disney Plus show Big Shot, which I think got pulled off the Disney Plus service, so I can't even reference that because I don't think anybody can watch it anymore with John Stamos. If you got a chance to watch it while the two seasons happened, they were great. But I think they were part of a content purge. Um, and it's a little bit like that. He's just kind of, he likes to throw chairs and stuff like that, and then he gets banished to the lowest ranked team. They haven't even scored a goal. They've lost like every game they've ever competed in and haven't even scored a goal. So um, he's supposed to turn this team around like every good inspirational sports drama. And at least this one isn't shooting for, you know, the World Cup. You know, like, oh wow, he's so good. He takes the worst team in the league that's never scored a goal, and suddenly they win the World Cup. That's not really what that is. It's just these guys are really committed to the sport. They're out there, they're running around, they're playing, and honestly, they just want to score a goal. Like their whole community, everybody would be happy. Their manager, um, just everybody associated with the team would just be really happy if they could just score a goal in a game. So Fassbender spends his whole time working with them, and then we get to the point, we get to a game, them versus Tonga, and that's the movie basically. Will Arnett floats into this as sort of like his manager slash agent, Fassbender's manager slash agent. It's funny because I'm actually wearing a Hakuna Matata shirt. Will Arnett says Hakuna Matata because he's like kind of clueless and doesn't understand like what language he's in or where he is. And Elizabeth Moss is sort of in this as well if you're looking for other people. But basically it's this cast of characters who I don't know who the actors are. They're playing these soccer players, football players, whatever you want to call it. They actually call it soccer quite a few times in this film, which is really weird because Fassbender's got his own accent on. It's just that Will Arnett is from America, so when he says soccer, you would think that as a professional working in the industry that he would have learned to use football. So it's weird that he uses soccer. Anyway, just little things like that. Taika is a competent director even when he's not trying, even when he's trying to not do Taika, when he's trying to do something else. So this is actually not a bad watch. It's just not necessarily a great one. He's definitely made better films. I actually enjoyed Thor: Love and Thunder. It has a couple problems. It's not as good as Ragnarok, but I didn't hate it as much as everybody else did. Some people acted like they had just seen, Face of the Devil or something after that movie. It's not that bad. The problems here are, I don't care about anybody on the team, because their stories are so sort of underdeveloped, and one note. They're just like, this is my problem. I have a problem. There's no Charlie on this team. I'm going to keep comparing to the Mighty Ducks because I've seen the Mighty Ducks like 1,000 times. There isn't like a strong, relatable force on the team with whom he butts heads with. There isn't like a Roy, Ted Lasso. Those characters just don't exist here. It feels very much like this is always just like a grouping of ballers and Fassbender. And even Fassbender isn't really developed well enough. It feels very stunted as a film. It feels like everything is about sort of surface level things. Like, let's talk about community. Let's talk about culture. Let's talk about the fundamentals of the game. Let's talk about how I can control my rage just a little bit. Let's talk about, how these players are sacrificing various things in order to be here, or how much they love the sport. I don't really get to know them. This doesn't feel like a film where at the end of the day there's a lot of strong personalities. If they were to make a Next Goal Wins 2, it wouldn't be one of those things that people would be really excited about because I don't think any of these characters really stand out. Honestly, the character that stands out the most is that there's actually a transgender character in this that plays the sport and talks about their transition and taking hormones, and there's a big thing with them towards the end about sacrifices that they feel like they need to make for the team that is maybe the best point in the entire movie, because it's the part where um, where a character just sort of explores themselves as a character the most, and we kind of get to actually know somebody, and then it's like, oh, but it feels, but by that point we're already in the final act of the movie. So it's just like, I don't know, you know. Fassbender does the same thing too. The most pivotal moment of his character's development comes at the end, and in the final act when he finally says something meaningful about his character. So it's all just kind of like, it's fine. It's a fine movie. It's not bad. Um, I just wanted more from this. I think Taika's a better director than this. I think he just tried to direct a film that he thought would play to the widest mainstream audience. This is what he thinks toning it down means. Is That's my guess. If I had to guess, this is what, when people who don't like the Taika-isms that he puts into his films, if you remove those from the film, what are you left with? And this is him trying to do that, and I just don't get it. It just doesn't. I think he just misses the boat. He has really rich characters in everything else he's ever done. So the fact that here I'm lacking character development, I would have much rather had a wacky sports comedy with crazy characters that actually stood out from each other, and totally were on brand for Taika, than I would this, which is a good, not great sports movie. So the audio description here again is I don't actually have a problem with the written audio description. There was just something very sort of like unassertive about the narrator, if that makes any sense. It felt very, I don't know if it's the mix or whatever, but it felt very much like my narrator was afraid to narrate. It was kind of quiet. It was very like, okay, so we've got this, and they're coming in, and it just felt like she was very nervous the whole time. And I was like, this is definitely a new narrator to me. This is not somebody I've heard before. And I was right. And I didn't recognize the name at all. She doesn't have a bad voice. I don't know. I just, welcome to the AD community. Please just, when, I don't know, say things. It was a weird vibe that I got out of the whole narration, that it felt like this was her first narration, and I don't know if it is. It may not be, but it's weird that I can hear that in somebody's voice. If it is, if I'm right, and I heard that, that was my only takeaway. Is just, it felt a little timid for a narrator. Like they're like, wow, I can't believe my first description is a full-length movie that's being released theatrically. Like it's overwhelming or something. I get it. It's fine. But you do you, and you did a nice job. You have a nice voice. I think going with a female narrator on this was absolutely the right call, because there are not that many women in the cast. So the voice never gets mixed in. I don't know if representation was a thought here, if there's any sort of representation in this casting, but still I would still say choose a female voice over a male voice, because almost every voice in this film is male, with the exception of every once in a while when one wanders in like, hi. It's like, okay, thanks, bye, gotta go back to this team. And there's a transgender character, but the transgender character is pretty clearly has a unique voice pattern that would be hard to replicate, impressive to replicate in Deluxe, but actually I'm pretty certain that is a transgender actor in that role. And yeah, when you're on hormones at a certain point, your voice is hits a range, and I think that's exactly where that is. So again, limited amount of people that could have matched with that voice and sounded also like an islander, a transgender islander. Not that many people who do audio description. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. This film is not necessarily deep into the game of football slash soccer, so it's not like you need that stuff necessarily laid out for you. Remember, these guys are not very good at playing the game, so it's more about the shenanigans of getting them to just score one goal. That's the literal purpose of this entire film, is to see if they can score a goal in a game. So that's it. Anyway, it's on Disney Plus. I kind of understand why this one flew through awards season unrecognized, and I don't disagree with it. There's nothing really here that I would grasp onto, and this is coming from somebody who likes Taika. So I'm gonna give Next Goal Wins a B-. All right, that's it for me. Make sure to click like and subscribe. I have a website, MacTheMovieGuy.com. You can follow me on X, Threads, or Instagram at MacTheMovieGuy. You can go to the Audio Description Project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what films have audio description and where you can watch them. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will watch something else and see you guys on the other side.